Good morning, everyone. My presentation has magically appeared, so that's all running very smoothly. Good to be here today. Good to see a bunch of familiar faces. I'm sure there's lots of people here as well that I've been on email threads with in the past, so hopefully I might get to speak to you in person at some point later today. So yeah, I'm going to be talking a little bit about just some high-level industry trends. This is going to be 10 minutes or maybe less to get us close back to schedule for the morning and closer to lunch for everyone. But as I'm talking about these trends, I wanted to put this in the context of metadata and how important metadata is in BookScan and the data that we provide to all of our clients and the industry. Obviously, metadata is vital throughout the whole supply chain, but in our part and being downstream from a lot of data, that's really crucial to the value we create and the data and insights we can provide to our customers and the industry. So if you're not familiar with BookScan, our owners are now called Circana. We've been Nielsen BookScan, we've been MPD BookScan, we're now Circana BookScan. I'll probably take some small bets on what the next name might be, but BookScan is BookScan, and it's a comprehensive tracking of POS sales for print books in the US. We have almost comprehensive panel, weekly data, around 600,000 ISBNs we report selling each week. We have 20 years worth of data now. So it's a very, very large database, even in the context of Circana, which is a very big data business. So we'll be talking mostly about print book sales in the US. We do have data on ebook sales for our PubTrack product. And also we have a smaller product which has data and trends on digital audio, which obviously is super interesting right now, really where a lot of action is in the industry. We just started seeing some data from Spotify, who started selling audiobooks. So a lot of action in that part of the market, which I won't say too much about today, but is certainly somewhere we're looking for some interesting trends. So at the top level, we are measuring the entire industry, and this is what the industry looks like on an annual basis. We've seen more dynamic movement in the industry through the last few years because of COVID. So really strong growth in actually 2020 and 2021. 2021 was the biggest year of sales we've measured in the US industry. And then 2022 and 2023, we've seen some declines as the market comes back somewhat to previous levels, but we are still significantly ahead of 2019. So 2023, the US book market as measured by us, the US print book market, was 10% bigger than 2019. So that's good. That's the whole thing. That's the whole pie. But really to get into some insights like who's winning or losing in terms of individual books, authors, and categories and formats, that's where we need to have metadata applied to all of our data to start digging in and slicing the data to really see the differences between different parts of the market. So the next level down, we start looking at super categories, which for us is what we would call adult nonfiction and fiction, juvenile fiction, nonfiction, and YA we've grouped together here. And the story is different. For a long, long time, we always looked to nonfiction and kids' books to be the growth drivers in the market. And that's really switched in the last few years, where we're seeing a lot of challenges in both of those areas. And fiction is where the action is, where the excitement is, where the growth is for the industry and for a lot of publishers. A while ago, I looked at this over a 20-year span. Like, what does nonfiction versus fiction look like over 20 years? And this is really, it's almost like a meta trend, this long-term switch from nonfiction being the growth driver to fiction being the growth driver. It happened over 10 years last time. So it's like, is it going to be a 10-year cycle? We'll have to wait another 10 years to see if it's going to happen again. But we can start looking at these individual elements of the market, identifying these trends and helping inform our publisher clients in all their decision-making and planning and publishing strategies. So we can go deeper to more specific categories within that. And up on the slide right now, I have the kind of, we call these the winning adult categories, which categories grew the most last year in terms of total unit sales on the left-hand side and absolute change on the right-hand side. So religion sales topping the charts here, romance, biography, a couple of really high-profile celebrity biographies drove that segment back to positive growth last year. And fantasy, in terms of the actual change, Unix growth. It's a relatively smaller category, but the growth was really, really huge. And that's the romantasy trend that we saw really emerging last year and continuing just as strongly into this year. Also, here is horror. Again, perhaps a smaller category might be seen as more of a kind of niche genre, but really now has got a lot of kind of activity and attention in that part of the book market. Also, I think in that part of the kind of content market more broadly in terms of movies and streaming and general interest from viewers and content consumers in the country, horror is on a real good growth trend right now. Here we have romantasy. So just digging in a bit deeper to that specific category. And this is where we're applying the metadata to all of our data. It helps us get to this view, but it starts getting a bit challenging because there isn't just a tag that says romantasy. So we can hit a button and say, show us romantasy. So actually we have to start looking a bit deeper and grouping things together, different categories from within romance and fantasy that we bring together to create these views. So even with, I think there's thousands of BISAC codes that are actively being used right now. Even though when we have a new trend like this develop, it can be challenging for us to pin that down and identify it very clearly as a trend. I mentioned that the kids part of the market has been really challenged the last few years, and a lot of the conversations we're having with publishers is about fundamentally like, why is that? How can we change this? Is it almost a societal question about younger people and engagement with books? What can the publishing industry do to assist that from a as a cultural good kind of thing, and from a business point of view, that we want to make sure that young people are still engaging with books at the levels that we'd like them to be. So, and this is a challenge. So in the kids book area, we have animals as being the biggest category. But is it an animals book for, is it a pop-up book or a picture book for a very young child? Is it a mid-level book? Is it a dark fantasy for older kids? Like, the categories here are actually a bit challenging to really get that valuable insight out of. So again, we look at the kids books in a couple of different ways. And again, we need some other metadata here, which comes to us downstream from Ingram and Barnes & Noble, who provide their data. This data that starts with the publisher, comes to us via those partners, and then we use in BookScan to summarize the data in this way. And we have age range, which is actually pretty well populated in the data, so it allows us to create these kind of views for the kids market and look at, is it the young readers, middle readers, teen readers, or infants, where we're seeing growth or declines in the market. And it's actually the young readers and the middle readers where we're seeing, I think, the most movement. And it's the middle readers, I think, where we're seeing, this is actually quite far away from me, but I think that's where we're seeing the biggest declines. And again, the biggest questions being asked: what's happening in mid-grade? How can we reinvigorate that? And hopefully, reverse or change this kind of troubling trend. I am moving quite quickly to not get us too far from lunch. Other things we look at in kids' books would be holiday books. It's been a growth area. Again, this is pretty well supported in the metadata that we can isolate. It's not just holiday books, but it's these particular holidays that are growing. It's the big ones, but it's good to be able to pinpoint that outside of the big ones, Halloween is still seeing really strong growth, and Father's Day, which I think is maybe a more recent trend to have publishing in that area and strong sales in that area of the market. I'm going to skip through these couple of points. Another way of looking at kids' books would be to look at picture books. Again, there's not a button, there's not a single thing in our data that says, show me all the picture books. So actually we use a combination of format and trim size and exclude some subjects to get a view of picture books, which again, is a considerable part of the market. And we are seeing some declines in that area based on our data. Wow, I really am going to get under 10 minutes. I got through this pretty quickly. So again, those are examples of just a few trends, let's say, all really kind of vital that we have the strong metadata behind that to allow us to summarize the data and provide that to our clients and the industry. And this is a very short wish list. These are things that have come up within my team just organically, not even saying that I was coming here in recent weeks. So I've been talking a bit about kids' books. There is a BISAC children's book type flag in our data, which allows publishers to specify if it's a pop-up book or a lift the flap book or a kind of interactive sound book. Currently, that does not appear to be well enough populated in our data for us to actually use that. So that's something that my colleagues that work a lot with kids publishers would like to see more of. Other things, the BISAC merchandising themes that's come up in a few contexts, that if that was broadly adopted, that would be something that we would like to add to our data, and it would add value to our data. Thank you. I might add some to this list to try and get more applause. I don't know. Someone mentioned earlier, I think already, work level identification. All our data is at the ISBN level, which for a lot of use cases is absolutely what you need. But for a lot of other use cases, having an easier way to get to work level would be great. If the industry talked at work level, my business books saying we would kind of have to get on board and start doing work level reporting. What I didn't put on here, ISNI, someone mentioned that earlier. Again, that would be really helpful for us to have that in our data. Probably needs to be a broader thing from the industry to get us to then reflect that in our data. Okay, that was quick. Thank you. So here's my email. Come and say hi later. Email me. Thanks for listening today.